Hey, everybody, welcome to Pink Shade. This is a bonus episode. I've got my buddy here, Mark L. Walberg, also known as Lionel. Is that right?
Lionel?
Yeah, I made that up. Is that not right?
I have no idea what you mean. Is my middle initial?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not it at all.
You
Like, no,
told me last time, and now
no,
I'm trying to remember. Leonard
no.
Lewis.
There you go.
There it is. You know what? Third time.
Lionel MP, come on.
You guys, it's my buddy. It's Mark L. Wahlberg. Listen, nobody is happier about the return of Temptation Island than me. So happy.
I think maybe I am, but okay.
Okay. All right. I was so excited. So I talked to you last year. I was in LA and we were over at our buddy Pat's house and we podcasted together. And you secretly told me that you heard it was coming to Netflix. You know, how you knew this, I'm not sure, but I was so excited. And then it happened. Oh my
Took a
gosh.
minute.
It took a minute. When did you
Not
guys?
really. I mean, we did it in May. From the point that I saw you and the point we were taping,
Yeah.
was quick. But for it to get on the air and be able to talk about it was a long stretch because they got a lot of content and they slate you in where you're supposed to be. And to be honest with you, I think they get a lot of it right, but it was a long time for me to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah. And because you had told me that, and I can keep a secret, you know, once
Apparently,
it was announced, I was like, okay, he told me this, but I couldn't tell you. I was so excited because the listeners love it. And I got to tell you, Netflix, that production value, man, coming in on helicopters. Woo!
yeah, wasn't that sick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Netflix did a great job. David Freeman, the executive producer, brought his A game. He's a great guy. But I just thought, it's so funny is like when we were on TV per se,
Mm-hmm.
you do like these super teases to kind of catch people, and then you go to commercial and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the pacing and how you got to cut the show is a little foreign to me. But I love it's like they open it up and like dun, 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 dun. It's like, okay, it's on and it's bigger.
Yeah.
Then they get in the Jeeps. It's like, okay,
yeah,
we're taking you, to the front lines of the battleground kind of vibe.
It was really, really cool.
Yeah, wasn't it cool? And the island looked gorgeous,
Yeah. Now, I gotta say, production notes. I think that next time they should give just one more couple because every season it seems like there's one Alexa and Lino, like for this season, that has decided beforehand, we don't care what happens. We are not doing it. And so we need more people to give into temptation. And you always need one couple that like, okay, like we can believe in their love. Like we can stand behind this. I think we just need one more couple and no more tempters and temptresses.
I'll see what I can do, MP.
Okay. I liked this. It was different because we also had tempters and temptresses instead of saying the singles. I'm like,
that was back to the way it used to be. I think, again, David Friedman and those guys really, you know what he did was he really took a deep dive into the early episodes, even back in 2001. And it was like, I think the move to calling the singles before was to empower them and their journey.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that too. But, he just went back to, all right, what are we really doing?
Yeah.
These people sign up and these couples come here and what they want to do is throw themselves into temptation to see how they do. So these 12 singles, they're here to tempt them. That's what's up. Might tempt them emotionally, might tempt them physically, but let's just call it what it is. And I think there's some power in that. I supported it.
Yeah, I liked it because, yeah, I mean, that's what they're cast for, and okay, so listen, our favorite part, of course, on the show is when Mark comes along and gives his advice. And we came up with the sound effect for it, which was Mark comes in, he says things like, you're not broken, you feel broken. And we say this because every time
it's like a tote board.
Yeah, it's like
you get 100 points for that.
It's like he did it again. Mark Wahlberg, he did it again with his amazing takes. We just love it so much.
Thank you. But realize that these conversations go a long time. And then they edit it down and be like, oh, he just said drop the bar right there.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes out of a conversation, but thanks. I love the sound effect. and I appreciate the props.
You know how we are over here. We're obsessed.
Yeah.
So, okay. So my co-host for Temptation Island, who you've met before, is Amy Archer.
Sure.
Yeah, and she's been on before, and she hosts Little Miss Recap, so she couldn't join us today. But she had a couple of questions, and I said I would pass them along.
Let's do it.
Okay, and I think we asked you this before, but she says, "Do you see the bonfire clips beforehand? So are you privy to example to knowing they're going to show Shantae this threesome that Brion had and how he's like super unapologetic? Like, did they say, okay, Mark, this is what we're going to show, so you can kind of get to working in your head how you're going to work through it with them?"
Yeah. So no.
Really?
I request and they honor that I don't see the clips beforehand so that I can say to them, let's watch this together. Now,
Oh.
in full transparency, sometimes they're going to say Shantae's going to get hit. And there's also like a hot sheet of what's going on that goes out every other day.
Okay.
So if there's like a threesome that happens, I hear about it.
Yeah. Okay.
But I can say I don't see it. And as far as prepping, I really try not to be lazy, although maybe like I didn't get into TV to do homework, but
yeah.
But I really think it's like, look, I can prep a line of questioning or try to drive it to a place I want it to go, but that's not fair. So my prep is clear your mind, meet them where they are, put judgment on the shelf, and just see what they see and take it from there and trust that we're going to have a conversation that matters.
Wow. Well, on the topic of Brion, so you didn't know this information that he revealed about his childhood and feeling very sort of unwanted and being shuffled around and driving himself to college alone. You didn't know all that before, or you did?
I wish I had asked the question earlier.
Okay.
As I watched the show and he becomes somewhat of a villain, because we like to put people in those roles. And for my seat, not a villain, not a big villain. But I kind of wish I'd asked that question at an earlier bonfire. And I missed it because it really gives you insight. If you've been abused in foster care, nobody's taking care of you. You don't have any idea what it is to love a woman and a woman love you back. You don't have a mom wiping your brow and telling you everything is okay. You develop this anger. Yeah. And it's easy to compartmentalize behavior, which speaks even more to that final bonfire with Shantae and Brion that has left me unsettled since it happened. But then I felt I kind of gained, like really kind of contemplating a possible insight there. So what if Shantae knew all that backstory, which I think she does? And what if Shantae, as a mature, strong woman, goes, this guy has had no chance. So I've seen the loving, sweet, church-going boyfriend that I love. Right. And this behavior, while it would break another woman and hurts me, I understand because I know what he's been through. Right. So it gives me a little bit of space to go, all right, Shantae, I get it. Yeah. You're a bigger woman than me, but I get it. Yeah. So
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I think a lot of people are thinking like, wow, like she took him back and it's awful. But I mean, it's a year later and they're still together. She's posted about it, and Netflix put out an article about where are they now. And I think a lot of people thought like, wow, I think you are always fair no matter what. And I think a couple of times he would say things and you'd go, okay, but sorry, this is this thing that's turned on with the thumb. Sorry. It would, it was interesting. Like, you're always fair, but I think that talking to some of these guys, and you were even saying to Grant, I think at one time, like, well, your actions don't match your words. So it's not like you're letting them skate off scot-free. Like, you did just have a threesome and say you have no regrets about it.
More than that, you have it, and then you're upset with what she's saying.
Right. Right. And sort of at the end, when he comes to realize, like, hey, I never saw her talking to another guy, other than just in a group. And hey, I never saw her disrespect me or speak ill on me in any way whatsoever. Even when she was furious and crying, she was never like, he's a piece of shit, or I hate him, or let me expose this and that and other that he did. She was always so respectful of him. And it's interesting that they are still together, because you're like Shantae and Brion.
Oh, you jump from Grant back. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Like, he never throws her under the bus. Even when he says stuff that I thought was like, oh, Jesus, before I knew what was up, where he's like, I don't need to apologize. She's going to take me back.
Yeah, that
But
was
then he says,
awful.
because she's the greatest woman I've ever known.
But still,
I
like,
know that's,
yeah.
but again, if you have no education in that, but you've got one person in your life that you trust,
Yeah.
it sort of gives you some insight.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
because here's the thing: if you go out and you have a threesome, in the moment you're like, whoa, and then directly after you're like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I
But not
risked? What have I done? What have I done?
but not him.
And not him. And I
Mm-mm.
thought that was really interesting. Not pathological, but it had to come from somewhere. And that's why I say, if anything, I may have failed him in not asking those questions much earlier.
Mm. It's so, interesting.
Although
So
it's not my job to fix them, but
no,
I wish I could have guided him better.
um, on that note, I would say Amy's question here is, which couple do you think came in as the weakest or the strongest? And I think we would all agree Alexa and Lino came in as the strongest, even though at the beginning it was like, we have no rules. And you're like, what's going to happen here? But then as it went on, you're like, they have no rules because they have no
No interest.
intention. Yeah,
Yeah.
no interest, which was great. And I love that. And I love
Although there were issues to deal with.
their issues to deal with, but
Yeah.
I think they had a solid foundation of saying they weren't going to cheat, as it were, given to temptation.
Sure.
Whereas you see like Grant and Ashley, and he's like, I gotta quit doing that with my thumb and the thumbs up. Grant and Ashley, he was like, you just have to trust me, blah, blah, blah. And then like within like 10 minutes, he's on Natalie.
Yeah. Like, what's your question there?
Oh, the question is, who came in as the weakest couple in your opinion?
I really can't quantify that. I mean, if you look at Tyler and Taylor, they seemed like he seemed really devoted to her and she really
Yeah.
loved him when we first talked. And then immediately you're seeing how he has disappointed her so much and
Yeah.
how he feels like a disappointment so much.
Yes.
How quickly he found somebody that he felt saw him,
Mm-hmm.
and then how that made her feel. And so, couples that come in looking like, yeah, they got a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Those, and I say this, the things that are petty and little become big, and the things that are big maybe go by the wayside. Look, Taylor wasn't getting what she wanted and
Right.
needed. And
Mm-hmm.
part of that was because she's got walls up and you can't do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But Tyler, was kind of, hold on, what do you need? It's my wife. And Tyler was like, trying to do his best, but he also has this story, he went from relationship to relationship.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
the same way about himself in each one. And, so hard for me to say which couple was the worst.
Yeah. Well,
I don't look at it.
I'm not saying worst. I'm just saying probably the weakest when they came in and maybe they didn't even
Weakest.
realize it,
Yeah, I can't quantify it.
Because you would
I mean,
think Shantae and Brion, but actually it turns out maybe they were.
maybe Grant and Ashley. I really don't
Yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think of it in those terms.
Okay. I knew you were going to say that, by the way. I knew you were going to be nice about the whole thing. So, so Kate Casey has had you on, and she had the executive producer on, and he said on her show that the villas were an hour apart. Now, is that similar to how it's been? Because I know you guys were
No,
on
that's the farthest apart we've ever had. They're never
right,
close enough that you could get to them.
walking.
Like, you're
Yeah.
not going to get a Montoya. Did you see that clip?
No, what?
No, from Temptation Island, Spain. It went viral.
No, what was it?
Oh, it's this kid in Montoya sees his girl cheating in the bonfire and then runs out of the bonfire and down the beach to the villa.
Oh, no, no, no. Yeah, that's
Perfectly
bad.
crazy. Yeah.
Mhm.
So in years past, they've been maybe 15, 20 minutes apart. This season, Kona's huge.
Mhm.
So we had one house that was kind of where my base camp was, where I was staying.
Okay.
Not at the house, but next door. And then the other one was literally an hour drive away,
Okay, and they have
which
2
made a little bit of a
crews?
challenge for me.
Yeah.
But because I have to sometimes be in both places the same day.
Right, right, right.
But yeah, and so they're like separate productions.
Well, that's my question is like 2 separate crews, 2 separate video villages, the
Even when they're
whole everything.
closer,
Yeah.
it's 2 separate video villages. I mean, camera crew goes back and forth.
Mhm.
I think, but yeah, like catering, production management, transpo, two separate crews.
In Hawaii. Wow. That's
It's a big deal.
it's a big production. So are you next to the boys or the girls' house?
I was next to the boys' villa
Mhm.
just because I guess that was our main base camp. I was in this hotel and we took over half the parking lot with all the, you know, uh, carpenters and grips and
Yeah.
all the production trucks. And then the other place was a little smaller footprint. You
Mhm.
still had like the story trailer and the control room trailer and
Yeah,
production
yeah, yeah.
trailer, just not like they weren't building sets and stuff like that.
Well, because you could tell at the men's villa when they first showed it that they had like this like expansive pool that had like a grotto and all this stuff, and the women's just looked like a beautiful like infinity edge pool. It looked
Which,
like
by the way,
mm,
is interesting because that the villa for the men's is the same one we had the season before, but they dressed it up.
interesting.
And that grotto and pool that was so beautiful at the men's is actually quite small. And
Okay, it looks huge.
the estate that the girls were in,
Mhm.
breathtaking.
Yeah.
Private
Yeah.
lagoon, volleyball court, upstairs, downstairs, like expansive. Like, oh my God.
What about, when they had the temptation light and it was like a nuclear bomb had been
Yeah, it
dropped,
was
like,
like
"Wah,
Amber
wah,
Alert.
wah, wah," all the li I was like, "What if you were next door and had paid $100,000 to stay in this villa
You
for a
know,
week, and you were
that's
next door and you're
funny.
like, 'What the hell?'"
In
Yeah.
seasons past, the night partying and the big lights being on and
Yeah,
stuff after 10, a lot of the neighbors like pushed back.
of
And we
course.
tried to help and say, look, we'll move you into the Ritz Carlton. But these neighborhoods, they're really rich.
Yeah,
They're like, I don't care about the Ritz Carlton.
right.
In this case, the one we had for the boys, there was no problem.
Yeah.
And the one that we have for the girls, this big, beautiful place, the closest neighbor was on the other side of that lagoon.
Yeah,
And they were
okay,
great. I
okay.
showed up the first day for rehearsal. And as we're leaving, they invited me over to the house. I came over and met them. And they were like, we're in and we're out. Just do your thing. And they were
Fun.
just so awesome. So that was great.
Oh my gosh. How much golf do you play while you're there?
As much as I can, but I work a lot of the days, and that's my wife.
I
She's
know, I
like
see her, I
living
see
life.
her. Yeah.
Hi, honey.
Sorry, honey.
She's
It's
trying to get
okay.
her act
They
together.
show up their dogs need.
We've got 2 standard poodles, and she's got a lot going on with them
I
today.
know, well, I have 2 mini golden doodles, and they're sisters, and so I get it, but they're not big.
Anyway, what were we talking about?
We were talking about the neighbors being
Yeah.
and the wah, 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 wah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
light.
So
Yeah.
that was like, I wasn't in the houses when those go on, but that on TV is like, what? I thought, the neighbors were great. We had no pushback. Everybody was chill. And so that was great. And I thought the houses they chose photographed beautifully. And
Yeah, oh,
I
yeah.
also think the art direction,
Mhm.
set design
It was
the
gorgeous.
next level. It was next level.
Okay, first of all, we were so excited when we saw the mini iPad on the tiny stick was gone. You upped it with the bonfire, but it was like on the
All right. So
screen
I'm going to give
bonfire.
props there.
It looked great.
So the carpenter set department,
Mhm.
I'm really tight with them.
Yeah.
And they just killed it. And to watch them work is amazing. And then the grip department is
Mhm.
possibly the only department that everybody works at is local Hawaiian, either
Oh.
Maui or Big Island.
Yeah.
And we first bonded in the season 3, which was during COVID, and we were in a bubble.
Mhm.
Nobody could leave. And I hung out in their grip like tent
Yeah.
every day and every night.
Yeah.
So we become brothers.
Yeah.
And they do amazing work, and they don't just do amazing work, they're invested emotionally, and the scramble is amazing. Like when we first sat down at the bonfire to block it out, that wedge that has the monitor that they're
Yeah.
watching
Yeah.
had no monitor for me.
Oh.
And like the producers like said, but you said you don't like to watch the clips. I'm like, no. I don't like to watch the clips beforehand. I kind of need to see the clips during the show.
You're like, I can't just listen. Yeah.
And so like within a half an hour, they built that set piece, put another monitor in it. Then all that stuff, like my little overhang in their area, all of a sudden we're in torrential downpour.
Yeah.
And they scramble and get it to where we can sit and be dry and we could shoot in the rain, where in seasons past, all of us would huddle under like a carport.
Yeah, you're getting wet.
An hour.
Yeah.
And pray to God we're going to get it done. So, I mean, I can't say enough about that local union and that grip department. I mean, I spent 4 seasons trying to earn a shirt and a hat. And I love those guys. I mean, those guys are my guys and they take care of me. And to be honest with you, when the bonfire is over, Robbie and I kind of, as I'm taking off my makeup, we have kind of a post-mortem and talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's usually late. She heads up to the hotel and I need to decompress. So I go and sit and have a beer till like 2 a.m. with the grips when they're done.
Yeah.
And then I wander up to the hotel and lay in bed for another 2 hours going, what did I say?
Yeah.
What am I going to regret?
Nothing. You never regret anything because you're always
Well, because they cut it and made me look great.
Yeah. Well, you're so spot on.
My head can't. During the bonfire, I have no idea. Like, I literally can't tell you what we talked about.
Yeah.
Then an hour or two later, it all starts to replay. I'm like, what should I have said? I wish I had done this, blah, blah, blah. Like anybody, I guess.
Yeah. Well, so, okay. Did you get to ride in the helicopter? That was another question.
No, I wasn't even there that day.
Dang it.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how little of interaction I have with anything else on the show other than the bonfires.
Bonfire, is there one at each house or do they have one in central location?
That setup, and that's why I stay where I stay. That setup is like one house over from that house.
Okay.
So like there's a property that has like 3 ohanas, like a main house and a couple of ohanas, which is what in Hawaii they call like guest houses.
Yeah.
One of those guest houses was my little area for glam and it was really great actually because it was footsteps from the bonfire. So on those long nights and in between the girls and the men, if I need to, I often will go and lie down for a minute.
Yeah.
Because it's a crew break for a meal.
Yeah.
Like I'll do those 4 interviews of bonfire and my brain is going a mile a minute. Then I got to shift gears and do it again. And so that little area was just beautiful. And I would hang out there, but we're really like the hotel's up on the hill. You walk down the driveway and we're there.
Nice.
So that's great for me. And then every now and then I got to get in the car and drive an hour to the other side, Now,
I think you told me last time that the singles, the tempters and temptresses, they live in the house with the guys or the girls, but they're like 12 people shoved in a room.
Yeah. I mean, at the girls' villa, there was a separate guest house. But yeah, there's bunk beds. It's like it's like a dorm vibe.
So that's probably why. In my mind, my theory is like, okay, I gotta try to get with this guy or get with these girls, so I don't have to sleep in the bunk beds. Maybe I can like spread out in a king size bed.
Well, it's a little jaded, but I think there might be something to that.
Okay, so also, I don't know if you noticed this watching it back. Like Lino had a tiny room, and then Tyler has this expansive like attic. And my theory is they knew Tyler and Brion would be banging another chick. So they're like, Lino's going to sit in his room and journal, so he doesn't need a big room.
I can't speak to that. I think that's a little conspiracy theorist, but I really don't know if there's any thought about that at all.
Oh my gosh.
Now that you mention it, maybe I think, maybe that's the case.
See, you just need to talk to me more. I've got lots of theories.
I'm sure.
So let's talk about these current contestants, because Netflix, like I said, did put out an article, which is Where Are They Now? And by the way, it's a crime against humanity and the world that there wasn't a reunion.
Maybe next season.
Netflix, hear our prayers. So Lino and Alexa, of course, are engaged. I don't think they've gotten married. Tyler and Taylor, he is already with somebody new. He left the island with Kay, but then like never saw her again. Now, I felt like you were biased towards Taylor. I felt like you just really loved Taylor.
It's not that I really loved her. I just really saw her.
Yeah.
And what she shared touched me. Obviously, I showed it.
Because she seems like a tough chick.
And that's
But
the
I think
scary part. I think I said some bullshit, it's not bullshit, but like overly maudlin line about armor protects you, but ultimately rusts.
it does. I loved that. We have to ding when that came up. Yep.
I don't remember saying it, but kind of cringed when I said it.
No, it's
A little too
not.
trying to be poetic, but I think I just had a soft spot for her because if you got to put up that much armor, there's got to be that much pain.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's right. Because she did seem like a tough chick, and then you were like, all right, what's really going on here? Yeah. Um, Grant and Ashley, she said she has not seen who we deemed Mullet Danny. She had not seen Mullet Danny since filming, which was interesting because you thought like,
Well, I think they live really far away.
yeah, and that's another thing that a lot of these reality dating shows they do try to like Love Is Blind, or they get the people in the same city. So
Yeah, they pick a
actually,
city and everybody's
yeah,
like, and that's its own drama because they see each other in bars and stuff like that.
yeah, totally. But she did say that she still had a soft spot for Logan, and that's who I was cheering for all along. I liked Logan more than Mullet Danny, and I think it's because I just didn't like his mullet.
Okay, mullet hater. Yeah, I'm not
I
a
am.
huge fan of the mullet, but I'm a huge fan of Danny.
Yeah, he was sweet. He was sweet.
Sweet and caring and, perfect for her then.
Yeah.
Logan is a Greek god.
Yeah, he's cute.
He's like 6 feet, a million.
Mhm.
And, everything's where it's supposed to be and hard for me to be around. I feel like I'm like wither away into just nothingness. But he's a sweet guy. He really, really got a lot of swagger,
Mhm.
and he's got that sort of professional athlete vibe.
Mhm.
He's a good guy. I would
like
never
him
put him
too.
in like that F-boy kind of vibe. It's not
Mm-mm.
really who he is. And I don't really know them all, but he really never struck me as being anything but a good guy.
Yeah. And then Brion and Shantae, like, where do we start? Because like we said, they are still together. And I just feel that as somebody who's been married a long time, like you have, like, you're never going to forget this. I mean, you can forgive, you can work through it, you can both go to therapy, but I feel like you could never forget that something like that happened and on television. So everybody also knows. It should be real hard to get over that, I think, Mark.
Yeah, unless you can.
I
One of
guess.
one of the things I tell them every year, because the show gets taped and then before it airs, sometimes they'll reach out and go, I don't know if I'm ready, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, here's the deal, man. Relationship and life is forever. This show is a very small chapter.
Mhm.
So all the hate, all the love, all the sting, whatever that is, it's going to really be visceral in the moment. And then before you know it, it'll be gone.
Mhm.
So, it doesn't define you. Weather that storm, ride that wave, enjoy the hype, take the hit, take the love. And then before you know it, I can prove it to you. That it's like I'll walk around now and I'm a little bit famous and people recognize me. And then 6 months from now, aren't you that dude whose son is the host of Temptation Island or something like that? It's like, didn't you used to do that show? And I'm like, do you
Yeah,
listen to
yeah.
me? No.
Yeah. Well,
So I
you know
just tell
what?
them, put it in perspective. It's just a TV show. At the end of the day, your lives and what you shared was real.
Yeah, right,
But
right.
all the other stuff and everybody's opinions, you can't live there.
That really reminds me that I meant to ask you this. A listener sent me a clip of you from a show, and they wanted me to ask you about it. Are you ready?
Sure.
Do you know what it's gonna be? Do you have a guess?
I have no idea.
Okay. So you were on a show a long time ago, it seemed. Maybe it was like 2000, I'm not sure. Um, which is not such a long time ago, but it is. It's called, like, To Tell the Truth or Tell the Truth or something
Oh,
about
Moment of Truth. That was like 2008.
okay. Mark, they sent me this clip and they're like, "Have you ever seen this with Mark?" And the person got the dad to admit he had had sexual relations with underage girls.
Yeah, I don't remember that episode.
You don't? This person was like, "This is this huge viral thing. You got to ask Mark. What was he thinking in the moment?" And it was, I guess, I
That
was like,
show, backstory on that show is I never wanted to do it.
"Oh, okay."
And so I mean, the real backstory is a crazy, crazy story. I was taping some pilot for some other show. I got done around 9 at night. I was exhausted. I'm like, I'm not even taking off my makeup. I'm still in my suit. I'm getting in my car. My phone rings. It's my buddy. He's like, we're doing this other pilot and it's not working out with our host and they want you. Could you do it? I'm like, I can be there in 5 minutes. I literally drive around the block to the other studio.
Wow.
Walk inside unseen, no prep, makeup on, mic on, let's go.
Wow.
But the same thing I do on Temptation Island, I did on that one.
Yeah.
Look, I even said, nobody in their right mind should do this show. If any of us were in that hot seat, a moment of truth,
yeah,
the gap between what we think is true about ourselves and what is going to be apparent. So as I host this, I'm going to have to do it with no judgment at all.
Yeah.
And just ask questions. And the show, ended up being the highest rated show that season, scripted or non-scripted, on any network. And we shot another season and the stock market crashed and the whole business went upside down. It got canceled or didn't air or whatever. So it shows up viral all the time. I've done some podcasts about it because it shows up. Look, I never really liked the show. It felt like really across the line, but like I've said before, ultimately, I'm feeding kids, so I was a whore and I'd take the show.
Sure.
But I tried to be me in that as I am in everything else.
It was vintage Mark Walberg, being yourself. But the question, what it was a daughter and a dad. And I guess from what I gleaned from this 2-minute clip, it seemed like they were a family that was in polygamy that were now out of polygamy.
Yeah, and I remember that.
The daughter asked the question and he said, yeah, I was just like given wives and I didn't, now I regret it. I didn't know what age they were, but we were in this culture where it's like, now you're this age, so this is your wife. And he kind of explained it. And the daughter said, like, I didn't want to have to ask it because obviously she knew the answer. But I was like, what is the point of the show? So you reveal this horrible thing and then you get $10,000. I was like, oh my God. But yeah,
I mean, I said stuff on that show like, you're at $25,000.
Yeah.
I'm looking at your next question.
Yeah.
Don't make me read it. And they're like, I'm cool with it. I said, no, you don't understand. I don't want to have to say this on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Take the money.
Yeah.
Like that was my whole stance on the show. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of running out of time. I hate to do this.
Yeah, no, no problem. No problem.
But yeah, that show's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other podcast. Well, speaking of podcast, tell my listeners where they can find your podcast, Bonfire Talks.
Thanks. At Bonfire Talks Podcast, where you get your podcasts on YouTube. And I'm hoping, like, we're really in the process right now of booking a lot of the couple people from this show.
Good.
And we're going to do a little bit of Where Are They Now and kind of, Monday morning quarterback, what happened to us all.
Will you be sure to let me know so I can promote it and also, of course, listen to it?
Thank you. I appreciate that, MP.
Okay. I'm going to say this because I have to say it at the end. Don't hang up because I'm going to click stop and it's going to kick you off, but don't hang up quite yet. Okay.
Okay.